What is the price of a promise? What is the cost of loyalty? And when the rules of the games are rigged, is it better to play by them and lose or break them and win? These aren't just questions from a philosophy class, they are the daily dilemmas of leadership. Welcome to Roots and Realities, the podcast where we unlock histories, systems, and society. I'm your host, Manu Nellutla. Today, we are diving into a story more than 5 to 7,000 years old. Yet, its insights on leadership, ethics, and decision making are as relevant as your next quarterly earnings call. Yes, we are talking about the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata epic is the world's longest and most profound epics. An ancient Sanskrit text from India, traditionally attributed to the sage Vyasa. It is considered that while he gave oration, Lord Ganesha wrote it. Spanning over 100,000 verses, it blends history, philosophy, politics, and spirituality. At its heart is the story of a royal family's power struggle. On one side, you have the righteous Pandavas, and the other side, their jealous cousins, the Kauravas. Their rivalry escalates into the great Kurukshetra war, a battle involving kings, warriors, and gods. Beyond the war, the Mahabharata explores timeless human dilemmas, duty versus desire, morality versus strategy, and the cost of ambition. It contains the Bhagavad Gita, a dialogue on life, ethics, and purpose, which remains a philosophical cornerstone to this day. It's not just a tale of heroes and battles, it's a mirror of human nature, leadership, and society. This isn't just a tale of divine wars and celestial weapons. It's a dense, layered manual of management, revealing the complexities of power, team dynamics, strategic foresight, crisis handling, and the lonely burden of making that final call. At Roots and Realities, we explore not just the history, but the related systems and effect on societies. In today's episode, we will discuss the insights that one can take from the epic Mahabharata on management and business operations. Whether you are a CEO navigating a merger, project lead managing a difficult team, or just someone trying to make the right choice under pressure, the Mahabharata has a case study for you. So settle in. We have a kingdom to win and a legacy to build. Let's begin with a concept that anchors the entire epic: Dharma. It's often mistranslated as duty or religion, but it's more nuanced. Think of it as righteous alignment or purposeful conduct. In management terms, it's your organization's mission, vision, and values, all rolled into one guiding principle. And no character embodies the struggle with dharma more than the elder Pandava, Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira is also called Dharma Raja, the king of righteousness. His personal brand was impeccable, but his idealism was also his greatest vulnerability. Most of you may know the story. He is goaded into a game of dice. Bound by a king's code of honor, he accepts the challenge, even knowing it's a trap. He proceeds to gamble away his wealth, his kingdom, his brothers, himself, and finally his wife, Draupadi. What's the management lesson here? Well, it's about the danger of rigid adherence to a single principle at the expense of all others. Yudhishthira's commitment to the process, the code of accepting a challenge, led to a catastrophic outcome. A leader who says, we must follow the policy no matter what, even when the policy is causing harm, is channeling Yudhishthira's tragic flaw. Modern leadership requires flexible ethics, knowing when a principle serves the greater good and when it becomes a dogma that threatens survival. One must weigh outcomes and impact, not just intentions. Now, contrast Yudhishthira with the ultimate strategic guide, Sri Krishna. Krishna operates on a completely different level. He doesn't fight. He even participated just as a charioteer in the Kurukshetra war. He has no formal title in the Pandava command structure, He was the divine consultant, the master strategist. He understands that dharma is contextual. To Krishna, the ultimate dharma was the restoration of peace, and he was willing to bend lesser rules to achieve it. He advises the Pandavas to use deception to defeat Drona and to use Shikandi to neutralize Bhishma. From a purely idealistic standpoint, these are questionable acts. But from a strategic one, they are necessary to defeat a greater evil. Krishna represents non positional leadership. His power came from wisdom, trust, and influence, not from authority. In today's workplace, he is that invaluable mentor who guides from the sidelines, that consultant who provides the game changing insight, the quiet team member whose opinion everyone waits for. He teaches us that true impact isn't about the title on your business card. It's about the clarity of your vision and the trust you inspire. Every great business story is a story about a team. The Mahabharata gives us two competing startups. Now, let's look at the Pandava team. On paper, they are the underdogs, but they are a textbook example of high-performing cross-functional team. Think about their complementary skills. Yudhishthira, for example, the CEO focused on governance, ethics, brand integrity. He sets the moral compass. Bhima, on the other hand, is a COO, the execution powerhouse, pure strength and implementation. He gets things done, no questions asked. Arjuna, the star performer, he's like the head of special projects, unmatched skill, focus, and the ability to deliver under extreme pressure. Think of his focus on that bird's eye. Take Nakula and Sahadeva, the twin vice presidents of analytics and intelligence, one an expert in logistics, as we call it, the supply chain. The other brother is an expert in astrology and data-driven strategy. They manage the details everyone else overlooked. Now come to Draupadi. She's the heart and soul, the moral core who never lets the team forget their why. Her righteous anger after the dice game is the catalyst that fuels their entire quest for justice. She provides the emotional, the resilience. And of course, there is Krishna, the chairman of the board, providing vision and guidance. Now, they, as a team, argued. They had egos. They stumbled. But they were united by a shared purpose and deep-seated trust. They went through what we call currently the Tuckman's stages of group development: forming, norming, performing, etc. Their 13 years in exile was a long, difficult storming and norming phase that forged them into an unbreakable unit. And hence, it worked during their performing phase, the ultimate war at the Kurukshetra. Now, let's look at the Kauravas camp. They had everything: the larger army, the established kingdom, the home field advantage. They had brilliant individual performers like Bhishma, Drona, and Karna. So why did they fail? Their downfall was a failure of culture. The Kaurava culture was built on envy, insecurity, and fear. The CEO, or in this case, the heir apparent CEO, Duryodhana, wasn't a leader. He was a narcissist, driven by the jealousy of his cousins. His management style was based on rewarding sycophants and undermining true talent. Shakuni, his uncle, was the toxic consultant, that whispering manipulator who encouraged every bad decision for his own vengeful purposes. Bhishma and Drona, the so-called senior executives, were trapped by their misplaced loyalty. Their personal dharma was tied to the throne, not to what was right. They were complicit through their silence. And then, of course, there is Karna, considered a very tragic figure. A brilliant performer, arguably equal to Arjuna, but crippled by a desperate need for validation from the wrong leader. Duryodhana gave him a seat at the table, but it was a personal choice. Karna's loyalty was to the man who recognized him, not to the mission. The Kaurava camp lacked what modern management theorists call psychological safety. No one could challenge Duryodhana. Good advice was ignored. Bad news was punished. It was a team of rivals, not a united front. The lesson is crystal clear. A team with A players with toxic culture will lose to a team of B players with a culture of trust every single time. As a leader, you just don't manage tasks, you manage the environment. Before the war, there was one last chance for peace, and it comes in the form of one of history's greatest negotiation case studies. Krishna's peace mission to the court of Hastinapura. Krishna, acting as an envoy, doesn't come with demands. He comes with a reasonable, de escalating offer. He tells Duryodhana that he doesn't have to return the entire kingdom. To avoid a catastrophic war, just give the Pandavas 5 small pieces of land to live in peace. This is a masterclass in finding what we call a minimum viable agreement. But Duryodhana, consumed by ego and arrogance, famously replied, "I'll not give them enough land to fit on the point of a need." This is the ultimate failure of negotiation. Duryodhana's refusal wasn't strategic, it was emotional. He couldn't see past his own hatred to evaluate the cost of conflict. He had no concept of a BATNA, or what we call the best alternative to a negotiated agreement. For him, the alternative to giving up 5 villages was a war that would ultimately destroy him, his brothers, and his entire lineage. He chose defeat over compromise. How often do we see this in business? A leader who refuses a fair settlement and ends up losing everything in court. A manager who would rather lose a star employee than concede a small raise. Ego is the most expensive item on any organization's balance sheet. The epic also shows us the dark side of communication. During the war, the great teacher Drona was very invincible. Krishna knows that the only way to defeat him is through psychological warfare. He had Bhima to kill an elephant named Ashwatthama, the same name as Drona's beloved son. Then he has the ever-truthful Yudhishthira tell Drona the news. Yudhishthira cries out, "Ashwadhama hataha kunjara," meaning Ashwadhama is dead, followed by a quiet mumble, "the elephant." The war drums are beaten at the exact moment, drowning out the last word. Drona, hearing only the first part from the most truthful man alive, drops his weapons in grief and was slain. This is a chilling lesson on the power of half-truths and strategic ambiguity. It's a gray zone for ethical decisions to secure victory. It reminds us that communication isn't just about what you say, but how you say it, what you omit, and the context you create around that message. So far, we have talked leadership, teams, and negotiation. Now let's go to the battlefield, the ultimate laboratory for strategy. Now, the Kurukshetra war is a masterclass in what we call asymmetric strategy. How a smaller force can defeat a larger one by changing the rules of the game. Earlier, I mentioned briefly about Krishna's use of Shikhandi against Bhishma. Now, the elder Bhishma had a boon that he could choose the time of his death, making him functionally invincible. But he had a personal code. He would not raise a weapon against a woman. Krishna knew that Shikhandi was born female, but identified and lived as a male warrior. By placing Shikhandi in front of Arjuna, he forced Bhishma to lower his bow, creating the opening that Arjuna needed. This is the very definition of using your opponent's strengths, or in this case, their rigid principles, against them. In business, this is like a startup, using its agility to outmaneuver large corporations bound by bureaucracy. Then there is the famous Chakravyuha, the multi-layered spinning labyrinthine military formation. It's a brilliant depiction of a complex, dynamic problem. The Kauravas used it to trap Arjuna's son, the young and brilliant Abhimanyu. Abhimanyu knows how to enter the formation, but he never learned how to get out. So he penetrates deep into the enemy structures, causes immense damage, but is ultimately trapped and killed. Abhimanyu's story is a tragic allegory for many business failures. It's the company that launches a product without a long term support plan. It's the leader who knows how to start an initiative but has no exit strategy. It's a warning about the difference between tactic of breaking in and a strategy to have a complete plan from entry to exit. What this story says to a modern project manager or a CEO is profound. It's a powerful metaphor for what business analysts call systemic risk. Abhimanyu defeats each warrior one on one, but he is defeated by the system, the formation of Chakravyuha itself. In organizations, we often see this. A brilliant team might fail not because of its members, but because of the corporate structure, the Chakravyuha, which is designed to stifle innovation or communication between silos. A project manager might have a great plan, but if he doesn't have a chance to have a buy-in from legal, finance, marketing, they will just get trapped like Abhimanyu. So the lesson is you have to understand the entire system you're operating in, not just your individual task. Now, I want to return to the dice game because it's not just a story of a leader's failure. It's a complete organizational breakdown. A case study in what happens when governance fails. Now just imagine the scene. The assembly hall in Hastinapura is the boardroom. Yudhishthira is making a series of disastrous decisions. Duryodhana is that rogue actor pushing an unethical high-risk agenda. What about the other board of directors? The elders like Bhishma, who could be the chairman, or Dronacharya, the head of research and development, and Vidura, the chief counsel. They all sit there, silent. Vidura protests weakly, but is overruled. Bhishma and Drona were bound by their oath to the throne of Hastinapura, which they interpret as loyalty to its current blind king, Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra himself, the current CEO, is paralyzed by his love for his wicked son, a classic case of nepotism destroying an entire enterprise. There is no whistleblower, no independent director to halt the proceedings, no one willing to trigger the emergency brake. This is a textbook example of what social psychologists call group thinking. I would say it's a phenomenon that scholars call ethical fading. The moral dimensions of the decision slowly fade from view, replaced by a narrow focus on rules, loyalty, or just not wanting to rock the boat. The elders knew it was wrong, but they rationalized their inaction. I'm just a servant of the throne. It's not my place to intervene. The rules of the game must be followed. This is the language of complicity. It's how scandals like Enron or Wells Fargo happen. Good people watch bad things unfold because the pressure to conform overrides their personal conscience. And then into the moral vacuum steps Draupadi. After she has been wagered and lost, she is dragged into the court. And she asks a question that shatters the silence. Did the king lose himself first before he lost me? If he was already a slave, what right did he have to wager me? A legal, moral, and philosophical bombshell. This is the ultimate act of speaking truth to power. She is not just questioning the game, she is questioning the very legitimacy of the authority that's oppressing her. She is using logic and ethics to dismantle their flawed premise. In any organization, the person who dares to ask these kind of fundamental, uncomfortable questions during a crisis is channeling the spirit of Draupadi. They are the true safeguard of an organization's soul. Most stories end with the victory. The hero wins the battle, gets the kingdom, the end. But the Mahabharata is more profound. The war ends, the Pandavas have won, but the victory is soaked in the blood of their kin. The mood is not victorious, it's mournful. Yudhishthira, the new king, is filled with grief and remorse. This teaches us a crucial lesson about leadership. Winning can't be the only goal. If you destroy your industry, your relationships, and your own morale to win, what have you really accomplished? It's a call for sustainable, responsible leadership. The final chapters of the epic Mahabharata are about the long game. succession planning, retirement, and detachment from power. After ruling for 36 years, the Pandavas and the Draupadi decide that their time is done. They crown Abhimanyu's son Parikshit as the new king, ensuring the continuity of leadership. They mentor the next generation, after which they renounce the world and walk towards the Himalayas, a symbolic final journey. One by one, they fall and die, their earthly flaws weighing them down. Draupadi for her partiality to Arjuna, Sahadeva for his pride in his wisdom, and so on. Only Yudhishthira, accompanied by a stray dog who has followed him, reaches the gates of heaven. But when the gods tell him the dog cannot enter, Yudhishthira refuses to abandon his loyal companion. He is willing to give up paradise for the sake of the humble creature who stood by him. This was his final test, and it reveals the ultimate leadership trait: compassion. His adherence to Dharma is no longer rigid or abstract. It has become a deep personal empathy. The dog, it turns out, is the god Dharma in disguise. This ending tells us that true legacy isn't the kingdom you build or the battles you win. It's the character you forge. It's about building systems that outlast you, mentoring those who come after you, and finally, having the wisdom to let go with grace and compassion. So, what do we walk away from this epic? That leadership is a constant, agonizing balance between idealism and pragmatism. A team is built on trust, and that team will always defeat a team built on fear. The communication and negotiation can be more powerful than any weapon. That in a crisis, silence is a choice. And a true leader's work is not done when they reach the top, but when they ensure others can climb after them. The Mahabharata doesn't offer easy answers. It doesn't give you a 5-step plan for success, but it gives you something far more valuable: a mirror. A mirror to see our own ambitions, our flaws, our dilemmas, and our potential for greatness. The roots of this ancient wisdom can and should help us navigate the complex realities of today. Until next time, this is Manu Nellutla on Roots and Realities, unlocking histories, systems, and society, one story at a time. Thank you.